All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We are celebrating Para's 75th anniversary. During the month of September, we are navigating the retirement racetrack. And today, September 20th of 2022, we are visiting part 2, which will focus on events that happen at your mid-career checkpoint. Hopefully, you will walk away with some additional tips that will help you learn more about purchasing service credit and our Rio self-service feature that will help get you halfway through your career and beyond. When we devised this lovely presentation, we set up 5 checkpoints, and we covered the first 2 during our seminar earlier this month. Today, we are going to cover checkpoints 3 and 4, and next week, we will wrap everything up with checkpoint number 5. For those of you who were not able to attend part 1, we're going to do just a really quick recap. In part 1, we covered what PARA is and who oversees our trust fund, the definition of PARA's tiers and vesting. We covered the importance of pre-retirement beneficiary designations, how PARA contributions, pension factors, and plan maximums are designated. We talked about earning and purchasing service credits. We touched a little bit on reciprocity and retirement eligibility for Tier 1 and Tier 2 members. For those of you who were not able to attend Part 1's seminar or webinar, we did record and upload those to both PARA's video library available on our website, as well as PARA's YouTube channel. And so you are welcome to revisit those at your leisure. For today, we are going to kick off the webinar with an actual pit stop with our friends from the education plan. And so today joining us is Carolyn Fittipaldi. She did a really great job during our first webinar covering the importance of education, not only for ourselves, but our loved ones. And so I learned a lot watching the first version of this presentation. And so Ms. Carolyn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Christina. Let me see. Oh, you need to stop. Oh, you did. Okay. I'm trying to get my screen shared here. There we go. Thank you so much to the PARA team for inviting us to participate and share some information about the education plan. My name is Carolyn Fittipaldi. I'm the marketing director for the Education Trust Board, and we're the state agency that administers New Mexico's 529 college savings plan. So, saving for retirement and education, they're really 2 sides of the same coin, right? So retirement and education savings, different goals, similar strategies, but for most of us, retirement and education are not only the most important savings goals we all have, but they may be our most significant savings goals. It's not a question of whether you should save for retirement or education, but finding the best ways for you and your family to save for both, right? Whereas education or retirement planning is more about your future, education savings is more about your loved one's future. Together, they will encompass a significant portion of your family's financial well-being. So accountability, starting early, saving often, adapting to changing circumstances can help you start on the right foot and provide clarity and direction throughout your life. With accountability, it's having a plan and sticking to it, right? Rewarding, it's so rewarding to reap the benefits of disciplined savings. Starting early, seeing the power of compounding in action. This can have a significant impact on earnings when you start as early as possible. But don't worry, if you didn't start early, it's never too late to start saving. Saving often, it's much easier to maintain discipline by saving a smaller amount often rather than larger amounts infrequently. Look at pay increases or other factors, maybe a tax refund, those types of things that might enable you to save a lot more each year. And adapting to changing circumstances. We all know that the unexpected happens, right? Try to resist pulling funds whenever you're able. If you must, try to get back on track as soon as you can. So you really should not plan on funding education with retirement savings. What's the danger of using retirement funds for education? Put simply, you lose the power of compounding, and this can add up. In this case study, a $50,000 withdrawal led to approximately $223,000 reduction of a retirement account. So not a good idea to use your retirement for education savings. So retirement and education savings, as I mentioned, are two sides of the same coin, and they impact each other in interesting ways. Here's one important way that retirement saving and education saving come together. In a way, saving for education is saving for retirement. Well, you might wonder, how is that? Well, because when someone graduates with less debt, they can begin investing for retirement earlier instead of paying off that debt. Starting earlier on retirement savings can make a big difference over the long term. As you see in this case study, a 10-year head start can add up to over $425,000 more for retirement. Really important. So when you're planning for education, you have two options, really. It's as simple as that. In option one, you can start early, save money, and earn interest. In option two, you can wait until it's time to go to college and then borrow money and pay interest. Which one would you choose? So what is the education plan? We'll start with the basics. A 529 savings plan is sponsored by the state of New Mexico. 529 is a section of the IRS code that authorizes tax advantage college savings plans. That's a mouthful. So don't forget, tuition is just the tip of the iceberg. The cost of college includes much more than just tuition. The average cost of 1 year of college at a public four-year university is over $27,000. Now, this is national data, so it may be a little bit less for in-state here in New Mexico, but that gives you an idea of the average national cost for a 1 year in a public four-year university. Just over a third of that is tuition. So the rest of those expenses include expenses for room and board, books and supplies, and other expenses. According to the College Board, Trends in College Pricing and Student Aid, a recent study, financial aid is harder to come by. While costs continue to increase, financial aid has been decreasing. Since 2011, annual college costs have increased 13%, while available financial aid has decreased by 18%. But using an education plan can help offset this trend. Data shows that with just $500 saved for higher education, kids are 3 times more likely to attend college or vocational school and 4 times more likely to graduate. They know that someone believes in them, and when they have that seed planted, their dreams can grow, and they have that confidence that somebody believes in them. So why should you start a 529 education savings plan? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the cost of college continues to rise, including tuition and housing, food and supplies. So it's important to begin saving just as soon as you can. By helping more kids go to college, we're strengthening our future workforce, which is so important, and especially here in New Mexico. Many students and their families use student loans. Saving with a 529 plan can really help finance a debt-free education, and you can ease that huge burden of student loan debt. And just with as little as $1 to start, saving for college is easy. And when you start early with consistent savings efforts, your higher education is much more attainable. And the tax advantages are great. These tax benefits are intended to encourage saving, tax-free growth, and tax-free withdrawal if the money is used for qualified education expenses. And for New Mexico residents, there's also a New Mexico state income tax deduction for the full amount of any contributions to the plan for the year in which the contributions are made. So if the funds are used for qualified education expenses, you can write off your contributions on your New Mexico state income taxes. Great benefits, and we're one of only a handful of states in the U.S. that actually offer such generous state income tax benefits. So who can open an account, you're wondering? Anyone at any time can open an account. You don't even need to be related to the beneficiary. You can even open an account for yourself to further your own education. You can change the beneficiary to another relative at any time, super flexible. It's always a good time to start saving for college. It's never too early and it's never too late. So which schools can 529 savings be used? Funds can be used at any accredited schools in the country, inside and outside of New Mexico. So that includes trade and vocational schools, 2-year and 4-year colleges, public and private schools, graduate and professional schools, and even a few international schools. So lots of options. And you can use the savings in your account for a variety of courses of study, from certificates, master's, and PhD degrees. So some examples of qualified expenses. 529 plans are flexible, as I mentioned. It can be used to cover a variety of expenses. Some include tuition and fees, room and board, books, computers, internet, educational software. An example of an expense that's not covered would be transportation. So for example, flights and gas money. And unlike many scholarships and grants, as I mentioned, 529 plans are flexible, can be used to cover many different expenses in addition to tuition. Remember, tuition is just one of a number of higher education expenses. So approximately 60% of annual education expenses are for other expenses outside of tuition. This example illustrates how the New Mexico Lottery and the Opportunity Scholarship compare to the education plan on covered expenses. And as you can see, the education plan checks all the boxes. So we have diverse investment options. We have divided our plan investments into 2 broad categories: the Keep It Simple and the Show Me options. Most 529 account owners select the Keep It Simple option for their investments. This approach is based on the beneficiary's year of enrollment. Our account owners like this set it and forget it nature of these portfolios. Each portfolio consists of a blend of investments, and they automatically change to become more conservative as the year of enrollment gets closer. The year of enrollment portfolios consist of a variety of low-cost, passive, or index funds. Think Vanguard, for example. The average cost for these portfolios is quite low. And for the year of enrollment portfolios, they serve as our default option. So for those who do not feel comfortable making their own investment choices, this is the default option when you sign up for your account. For the Show Me options, the education plan also has a variety of investments designed for more experienced investors. So there are both passive or index allocation options, as well as actively managed allocation options. All these options are low cost. There are also 5 individual fund options, including a socially responsible option. All of the information about the investment choices are on our website at theeducationplan.com, and we have a very detailed plan disclosure and participation document that you can review, and when you go to sign up, you can get all the information you need about the investment lineup and fees and all of the information that you need. So remember what I said earlier, with just $500 saved, a child is 3 times more likely to attend college or vocational school and 4 times more likely to graduate than those without savings. Also remember that very few families can fully fund that higher education with just savings alone. Most families have a mixture of scholarships, grants, work study, savings, and unfortunately student loans. A more important measure for successful education savings is the extent to which education savings can reduce that huge burden of student loan debt. On average, in 2022, student loan borrowers graduated from public colleges and universities with over $30,000 in student debt. As this chart shows, that over 15 years, just saving just $100 per month with a conservative estimate of an average return of 5%, it nearly cancels out that average student loan debt. So another great feature, which is so cool, is that family and friends can give a gift into your 529 account. They can do that through a one-time gift or a recurring contribution. It's a way of crowdfunding education and can help grow your account. We make it super easy with our UGift platform. You can request a unique gift code when you set up your account. Then you can share it with friends and family. You can text it to them, put it on Facebook, email it to them, and they can contribute directly into your account. We also have some cute little coupons if you want to include a gift that shows that you did make a contribution. Wrap that up and give it to your loved one. along with the gift. It's great for holidays, birthdays, graduations, and all kinds of special occasions, or just because. It may offer tax benefits to the gift giver as well. What a wonderful, unique gift that will have a lasting positive impact on your loved ones. That wonderful gift of education. And it's so much more meaningful than those gift cards or toys, all those toys that get unused within a week or so, right? It's super easy to set up an account. You can do it online. It takes about 15 minutes. You can enroll at theeducationplan.com, select the open an account button, and what you'll need for each beneficiary ahead of signing up is their name, of course, social security or tax ID number, and their birth date. And during enrollment, you'll also be asked to make your investment selections and then set up automatic contributions if you choose to do that. There are so many options and a lot of flexibility as far as putting money in your account. Payroll contribution. Well, at this time, though, the state does not offer payroll contribution, but don't fret. It's also really easy to make automatic contributions directly from your bank, and you can make those adjustments, changes to your contributions fairly quickly and easily, and make those contributions as often or as infrequently as you like. If you're old school and you'd prefer to send a check, you can do that and mail it in with a contribution coupon, and we'll deposit the funds into your account. And you can send checks as often as you like. You can make a one-time electronic funds transfer. So if you have another savings account that's not making much interest, not growing for you much, and you'd like to roll that into a 529 account, you can make a transfer from your bank account. You can also roll over or transfer from another 529 plan if you happen to have one, either in another state or you have another plan that you would like to roll money into, or even transfer funds from other eligible accounts or investments. That is the end of my presentation. I see that there might be some questions, so I'm going to take a look, but let me say thank you once again to Para for including us as part of the discussion on savings, because retirement is one big, very important way to save, but education is really important too, and we appreciate the opportunity. Please feel free to reach out to me directly if you would like. If I don't get to all your questions, I would be happy to entertain questions directly. If you want to call me on my cell, email me. If you want to go onto the website at theeducationplan.com, and there's always the 800 number Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. that can entertain any questions you might have. And I thank you once again.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Carolyn. We appreciate you. We will let you address those questions in the Q&A as a moderator. I'm pretty sure you should have access to those. We also took note of some individuals' feedback regarding the topic. Here's what I would like to add. Your retirement journey is the beginning of the next phase of your life, and there's a chance you're going to want to further your education and start a new career. And so the education plan can help you fund that. And since this is an open space to talk about ways to make you a better employee mid-career, we appreciate Carolyn joining us today. I am going to pull back up the Para presentation, and we will continue on. I'm pretty sure that is the screen. No, that is not the screen I want to share. Give me just a second. All right, now screen is misbehaving. Let's see if it'll let me. Where did my PowerPoint go? See it? Can I share it? Is the new question. Maybe it'll let me do that this way. Excellent. So I messaged our deferred compensation representative earlier to see if he was going to be joining us. And there is a chance he got called away. So I apologize. What I am going to tell you is that no one has ever come to a retirement seminar and said that they've saved too much and that they're confused about what they should do now. And so my words of wisdom are save more. Every time your employer gives you a raise, before you build that into your budget, set some aside, give yourself a raise in deferred comp. When we visit next week's webinar, our friends from the New Mexico Retiree Healthcare are actually going to be joining us. Thank you so much to them for agreeing to participate. We are actually going to see firsthand why it's super important to save extra dollars for retirement. If you need additional information regarding saving for post-retirement post-retirement expenses, post-retirement trips, definitely ParaSmart Save can help you do that. Most of you in this webinar are likely state of New Mexico employees, and so it's actually something that is offered through the state of New Mexico, but many of our affiliated municipalities participate as well. And so we encourage you to reach out to Para if you would like to learn more about saving extra dollars for retirement. In light of time and some of the comments we've received today, we're actually going to pick up with the next slide. So today we are covering checkpoints 3 and 4 on our roadmap to success. In our mid-career stretch, I'm going to encourage you to stay on top of your retirement account. This is yours. Para administers the retirement benefits, but we have no way of knowing if something isn't correct unless you reach out to us. Everyone in this space who is a Para member should have received via mail, presumably at the end of last week, an annual member statement. And so Jose and I will be the first to attest that we've gotten hundreds of emails and inquiries and phone calls regarding the members' annual member statements that may or may not be correct. And so we appreciate you actually opening the mail that Para sends to you. And so oftentimes we're going to encourage you to request a service credit verification to verify where your service credit stands. The other important thing that we kind of alluded to in the first part 1 webinar was the importance of your pre-retirement beneficiary. Opening your statement and looking through all of the pages is a great way to stay on top of your pre-retirement beneficiary. When members reach out to us and say, that person's name now starts with X, I don't want that person to receive any of my dollars, it is likely that you reached out to your employer and updated your life insurance and other benefits that you have. But unless you directly contacted Para, filled out a brand new beneficiary designation form, and provided our records staff with the required documentation to prove that change is legal officially, we may not have made that change. And so on the beneficiary designation form, we actually have instructions that follow. And so if you're making the change related to marriage, we're going to ask you for a copy of your marriage certificate. If you're making the change related to divorce, we're going to ask you for court-endorsed copies of your divorce documentation. And if it's related to death, we may ask you for a death certificate, particularly when that's related to your spouse. Under normal circumstances, I would be able to drop a copy of our beneficiary designation form in the chat, but the webinar feature unfortunately does not give us the opportunity to do that. But at the end of this presentation, we will share our contact information with you so that you can reach out to us, including our website where you will find all of our forms and additional information. What we are going to focus on for this particular checkpoint is our Rio self-service feature. In my professional opinion, this is one of the most underused resources Para gives our members. Staff actually had an opportunity to name this feature when we adopted this software back in 2005, which is how long I've been with Para. And so it's roughly 17 and a half years now. It's been a fantastic ride. And so RIO stands for Retirement Information Online. And Para has given you access via your self-service account. And so you can get to our self-service feature by typing the HTTPS website that you see here, or by visiting Para's website and clicking the little yellow icon at the top of the screen. When you get to this page, you're going to see lots of options and ways to communicate with Para if it just feels overwhelming. The lovely picture you see here is Para's building up in our Santa Fe office. And so we're just going to move on. On that main homepage, snips of those show you that if you've already created a Rio self-service account, you can use the left portion of that screen. The login menu will allow you to enter your user ID and password. As a reminder, passwords expire every 120 days, whether you log in every day or every 120 days. For reference, you're not the only one who locks yourself out. I do it pretty regularly, which is why when you opened your account, which is the snip you see on the right, we give you the opportunity to set up a secret question and a secret answer so that you can reset your password whenever you need to get in. We are going to ask you for some of your demographic information and a good email where we can reach you. If your employer allows, you can use your employer-sponsored email. However, if you are nearing retirement, you honestly need to utilize the employer or your personal email address, because once you retire and you have to reset your password, you're not going to have access to that employer-sponsored email any longer. So always recommend a personal email address when you have one. If not, your employer-sponsored with your employer's permission is definitely doable. All right, when your account is logged in, what you are going to find at the top of the page is your maxed out Social Security number along with your name and your Para ID number. When you email Para, we are going to ask you to give us your Para ID number, which is different than your share ID or your employee ID at your employer. Your Para ID was something that came about in roughly 2007-ish. And so that is a standalone number at Para. Your employer's not going to know it. They don't have access to our database. But we did give it to you on your annual member statement, and it is visible on your self-service account. You will see which division and plan you fall under and which tier of membership you fall under. And so if you're going back to review that first webinar and we're explaining the differences in tiers, you'll see which tier you fall under and understand why. Also, you'll find your beneficiary designations. Again, if it's somebody you don't recognize, somebody whose name starts with the word X, or you have since married, that person's passed away, make sure you update that beneficiary as quickly as possible. In the middle, you're going to find the money. And so oftentimes members reach out and say, that's not all the money withheld from my account every 2 weeks, or that is way more than is being withheld. And so contributions to Para are actually set by statute. It has been this way since we were born in 1947. And so those are non-negotiable. The full contribution rate for the plan that you're enrolled in at the time you are enrolled, based on your gross salary, is what gets sent to Para every 2 weeks. Depending on what your employer has elected, it either goes into the tax deferred bucket or the non-deferred bucket. And so the majority of our 300 plus affiliated entities participate in Para pre-tax, which means your contributions are withheld before taxes are deducted from your gross paycheck. Some of our entities have remained non-deferred, which means their benefit, whatever their gross payroll is taxed, and then their Para contributions are withheld. When those dollars are sent to Para, we cannot tax them again when we pay them out, which is why they are housed in a separate bucket. Oftentimes, those members have the misinterpretation that their pension is not taxable because they've already paid taxes on their contributions. But fun fact for today, when Para retires you, we're going to split the balance in that bucket and pay it out over 30 years worth of payments. The majority of your pension will be taxable, and this teeny tiny piece every month will be non-taxable. So don't listen to the rumor mill. Come to the source for your retirement answers. Para pays interest at a rate set by our board every June 30th, and so that's part of the reason we send you your annual member statement. I looked at somebody's statement on Friday when they emailed in. They actually had more interest in their account than they did contributions. And so that is the power of compounding and interest. And so oftentimes members are confused about this balance. They want to know if this balance determines what we pay to a member in retirement, and that answer is no. The other thing is, these dollars are the glue that holds your service credit in place. If you take a refund, your service credit goes right out the window. If you roll those dollars to another retirement account, your service credit follows along with those dollars. You have zero service credit if you roll out or refund your contribution. Further down on the first page when you log in, you are going to find your service credit. We have it broken up in categories. The majority of PARA's 31 plans fall under the Public Employees Fund. If you were a sitting judge under the Judicial or Magistrate Retirement Act, you may see service credit in those buckets. If you were not a judge, but you worked for one of those courts, your buckets will be empty because you were actually a member of the Public Employees Retirement, not a sitting judge. If you served as a senator or a representative for the New Mexico legislature, you may have service credit in your legislative bucket. If, in addition to your paid day job with PARA, you are a volunteer firefighter in your community, you may see service credit in that bucket. Those are standalone buckets. Your volunteer fire service cannot be combined with your PARA service credit to help you retire, nor can it be combined with any of those other buckets. Some of those other buckets, with the exclusion of volunteer fire, can be combined for service credit purposes to help you retire sooner. So just some fun information there. Now, this is where I encourage most of our members to come after they review the top of the screen. The reason is, when we send you an annual member statement, it gives you information in a very specific format, and it's confusing for a lot of our members. And so the first tab we're going to visit is the account details page. And so when you click on that link, you're going to see your service credit in calendar year format, which is January 1st to December 31st. You should see all of the wages for that calendar year that match the W-2 your employer issued. Not all of those wages may be subject to PARA, which is why you see a separate category in that third column. You are going to see your either deferred and or non-deferred PARA contributions, what interest we've paid to date on those dollars, and then your service credit for the year. We've had several members reach out this year and they say, you know, my service credit doesn't look right for a particular year, and it's because they began their career after July 1st of one year, but before June 30th of another. And so they think that PARA is misreporting their service credit. And so it just turns out it's just in a different format. This is a much easier tab to read on a calendar year basis. And so I encourage you to create an account and view your service credit in these details. If you still see a discrepancy, please feel free to reach out to PARA. On the member statement and annual member statement letter pages, you are going to find very similar information to what we just looked at, including the fiscal year format, July 1st to June 30th, what your contribution balance, your current employer, your service credit, what your compensation looks like in a fiscal year format. And while it's a valuable resource, those statements remind us to stay in touch with PARA. I think personally and professionally that it is a more difficult format to interpret for those of us who don't live and breathe PARA all day long. So just for reference, on the beneficiary page, you should find people whose names you recognize. If you see something other than that, this page actually gives you a direct link to our beneficiary designation form. Since New Mexico is a community property state, if you're trying to name someone other than your spouse needs to sign and date a spousal consent form related to that beneficiary designation in the presence of a notary, and then we need all of those updated forms to be submitted to PARA. Oftentimes members reach out to us while they're actively employed and they say, you know, I'm trying to buy a house, I'm trying to buy a car, I'm trying to buy an RV. I need a letter showing my current balance. And most of our members aren't realizing the fact that they have the ability to generate a balance verification letter directly from their self-service portal. And so this is actually a snip of the letter that generates. It's official, it's on PARA letterhead, and it shows your current balance along with contact information for PARA. So that's another great resource. And so when you log into your self-service account, in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, and I know it looks like I'm pointing opposite of that, you're actually going to find a Things to Do menu. The first two tabs give you the opportunities to update some important things. On the member home tab, you can actually update your password. If you started out with your employer-related email address and now you're gearing up for retirement and you want to switch that to your personal email address, that's the tab that will allow you to make that email change, and you can change your secret question and answer. On the Update My Profile page, both active and retiree members now have the ability to update their mailing address via their self-service portal. And so it's not an instantaneous fix. It goes into effect the next business day from what I understand. But you have the ability to keep Para in the loop. We can't stalk you on social media to see you bought a new house or you moved from, one state to another. We can't stalk you on that level. And so we give you the ability to keep us in the loop when your mailing address or phone number or email address change, keeping in mind that when you update your email address on the demographic tab, it does not update your email address on your profile. All right, on the Generate Benefit Estimate page, I tell members all the time, and ironically, our member services staff do as well, that you have the ability to generate an estimate of benefits directly from your self-service portal. When you log in and click on the Generate Benefit Estimate page, you are going to see the plan that you are currently enrolled in. If your page says that you're in multiple plans, you might have to use the drop-down feature to pick the plan that you are currently enrolled in. If you need assistance determining that, please let us know. We're happy to help. The next screen you're going to see is going to ask you for your age at retirement, your beneficiary's age at retirement, your service credit, and any time that you intend to purchase to get to retirement eligibility. For reference, your age at the time of retirement and your beneficiary's age at retirement are subject to rounding on Para's back end. And so if you happen to be, 52 and a half years at the time you plan to retire, Para, for all intents and purposes, is going to round you up to 53. And so anytime you are between, 6 months and 11 months to your next birthday, you need to apply that rounding on your own to make sure your estimate is as accurate as possible. And so oftentimes members ask me, do you think that self-service portal is accurate? And so my answer is, it's as accurate as the information that's being fed to it. Your salary comes to us directly from your employer. We operate under the presumption that that salary is accurate. We rely on you to tell us if it's not. That age rounding is what throws off the majority of our members. So make sure that you're looking at your age down to the 6-month marker when you're filling out this calculation page. When you click next, Para is actually capturing your highest 36 consecutive months of salary if you're Tier 1, or your highest 60 consecutive months of salary if you're Tier 2, which is the statutory definition of final average salary, before we move you on to the calculation results. And so it defaults automatically to the highest 36 or 60 consecutive months that have been captured thus far by the employer reporting. Para used to give members the ability to forecast their future salary, but as you might imagine, one person broke it for everyone else. Someone entered a fictitious future salary and then sued us when we didn't retire them on that fictitious salary they never earned. And so to prevent litigious, action in the future, we reverted to the data we use. And so we do not allow you to forecast your future salary with fake salary. I know lots of members have reached out and said, well, how do I forecast my recent raise? You can do that by hand. If you calculate your annual salary and then apply the formula, you absolutely could do that. We're going to cover that formula a little bit deeper next week's seminar. But I think it's always best to kind of lowball your estimate of benefits. If you can afford to live off of what Para is calculating based on your current salary, getting a raise will give you icing on top of that cake. So my professional opinion, do it based on your current salary. If you can't afford to retire based on that, you would still have to work 36 additional months or 60 additional months under that new higher salary to see that effect. So lowball estimates are my favorite because anything additional is icing. What you will see on the calculation result page, provided that you entered an age for you and an age for your beneficiary and your anticipated final service credit is what we anticipate your form of payment options A, B, C, and if applicable D that generate out of our system. And so these amounts are quoted in the gross form, pre-tax, pre-insurance, and give you an idea of what you can expect to receive once a month for the duration of your lifetime. If you only saw one option, there's a chance you skipped over the beneficiary's age at the time of retirement. Other fun things we'll probably cover more in depth next week, but I think this is a really great resource for members to just start playing around with the retirement numbers. If you're looking at that thinking, I can't afford to retire, we have options. You can work longer, you can beg for raises, you can apply for positions that pay you more. Para has over 300 affiliated employers, and you can go work for any of them, just keeping in mind that you have to watch which plans they're enrolled in. All right, let's see where we are now. This is my favorite. So we told you in the little teaser that we were going to talk about your ability to buy time. Truth be told, I will be the first to tell you that I do not support buying service credit. It's not because I don't think there's value to it, but because you're buying yourself out of one of the strongest retirement systems in the United States. Not a humble brag, it's the truth. You are buying yourself out of low-cost insurance. You're buying yourself out of seniority. You are buying yourself out of probably leave accruals that are pretty astronomical. And so when members come to me and they say, should I buy time? I don't even look. Quite honestly, I usually tell you no. If it is in your heart, or maybe you have another job lined up, you have loved ones who need you to be home to care for them, you've had it up to here, and you value your mental, physical, emotional health over finishing out that last period of time, you have the opportunity to estimate the cost of airtime on the aptly titled Airtime Cost Estimate page. And so when you populate the appropriate tabs on this page, it will actually show you the rough estimates for cost of airtime. When we do retirement seminars, members come and say, well, how can you look at my smiley face and tell me how much airtime is? And the answer is no. Airtime is based on your age at the time of purchase, service credit, plan, and final average salary. And so Para takes all of those into consideration in an actuarial formula and determines the cost on an individual basis. This calculator actually does that for you. And so what you will see here is this person's nearing retirement. They have over 23 years of service credit right now. And so they officially, their cost of airtime is almost half of their annual salary because they're this close to retirement. As soon as you are vested, you are eligible to purchase airtime service credit, and the cost is far less. So that is my word to the wise for you. Buying service credit is far less expensive earlier on in your career than it is at the end. There is also a cost calculator page for military service credits. On behalf of Para, to those of you in this space who have served active duty military, we appreciate you. Officially, the military cost calculation for vested members takes into consideration the employee and employer contribution rates for the plan that you are enrolled in, as well as your final average salary. And so in this case, the screen makes those calculations for you and determines the buyback cost per month. Vested members are eligible to purchase up to 60 months, 1 month at a time if they can afford it. 60 months maximum, provided they actually serve 60 months. There are instructions on both the airtime and military calculation pages for how to submit a formal cost estimate or a cost calculation request. All right, my favorite feature that rolled out last November is the uploads form page. Everyone in this space has the ability to upload retirement applications, supporting documentation, request forms, change in records forms, change in retirement date forms. There's a whole list in alphabetical order that you can upload directly to Para. I actually saw this in the test environment, and I know that you get an email back saying your packet was received by Para and that you should reach out to us if you have any questions. And so this feature is a way to get not an instantaneous response, but a pretty fast response that your documentation was received. And so I strongly encourage all of you to use it if you are able or so inclined. And so, all right, this is pit stop 4. I know some of you have your hands up and have some questions. We are going to open up Q&A at the very end. I need my voice to last through the next couple of slides. We only have a few more to go. And so I promise we'll get to Q&A in just a bit. So for our stop number 4, it's officially called You Can See the Flags. This is the point where you are getting to beyond midpoint in your career. You're over that hump, you're on your way. This is Para's reminder that we want you to mark your calendar. There is a certain point in your career where we want you to request a formal estimate of benefits. And so this is that time, right? When you are within 3 years of retirement eligibility, and we covered that in the first webinar, we'll probably revisit it again, either in the Q&A or somewhere else along the lines. We want you to reach out to Para to request an estimate of benefits. The second checkbox, just below the second darkened line, will allow you to do so. My favorite in 17.5 years response to the estimate of benefits requested for retirement on up to 2 dates, my favorite response ever was, I don't know. So here's a fun fact for you. I don't know either. And it's not because I haven't been doing this for 17.5 years. It's because we are not psychic at PERA. You have a retirement date trapped in your brain. I absolutely know that you do. You have to let that out for us to help you, right? And so the minimum requirements is 3 years out from retirement eligibility. If you've done that, or maybe you're 1 year out is a great time to revisit or maybe visit for the first time requesting an estimate of benefits. Hopefully by then, Para's captured 3 years of better salary than your first estimate. And so my note about help Para help you alludes back to my favorite response ever. In our minds, deep down, whether or not we know it, we absolutely have an idea of when we want to retire. Whether it's as soon as possible, first eligible, first available, at a certain number of birthdays. Maybe somewhere in our brain, somebody told us that we need to retire at a certain percentage or a certain calendar day. I hear lots of members say, you know, retire December 31st. It's the best. The problem with that is that's not Para's opinion. That's somebody else's opinion. I tell members to retire when they've had it up to here. But honestly, you have to find out what works best for you. I personally know members who have well exceeded plan maximum, well exceeded eligibility for retirement, and they continue to go to work. And so it's important to pick a date that's right for you. And you have to be mentally, physically, financially prepared. And this is one of the first steps that will help you do that. So what do you want to give us on this line? If you have a certain percentage in mind, give us that. If you have a certain date in mind, give us that. If you have a certain number of birthdays in mind, give us that, so that we give you a response that is applicable for you to use in your planning. If a member writes first available and they're eligible for retirement today, we're going to give you a date that's 60 days out, but maybe your employer offers you an incentive to leave at the end of the year because they're willing to pay out your leave balances in a way that's beneficial. Or maybe your employer allows you to utilize leave balances before you are retirement eligible. That is not a process that is tied to Para. We can tell you when you're first eligible, and then your employer is going to sit down and figure out how your leave balances get you to that date. That is outside of Para's control. We have no say in that. That is between you and your employer. Other fun things. If you are utilizing leave, whether it's annual leave, sick leave, comp time, whatever it is, you are going to want to make sure you have sufficient leave balances to meet service credit requirements, which we covered in part 1, to get you to that date. Because if you run short in any given month and you do not meet service credit eligibility for retirement, we don't retire you. If you want to see multiple forms of payment presented to you in your response, You do need to give us your beneficiaries information, including their full 9-digit Social Security number. So another way you can help PARA help you. Maybe you have a particular retirement date in mind, and you are trying to decide between naming a spouse and a child. Maybe you're trying to weigh the pros and cons of both. You can give us one date, and PARA will take the demographic information for each beneficiary and give you 2 estimates for the same date, show you the difference between those 2 beneficiaries. So there are lots of ways to help us help you. Item number 2 reflects reciprocity. We covered it a little bit in part 1, but if you've ever been employed with a public school, college, or university in New Mexico, you likely have reciprocity with the Educational Retirement Board. PARA doesn't do an automatic check. You need to check both the PARA and ERB checkboxes so that we can get you an applicable response from both agencies. Under the Reciprocity Act, you're required to apply for retirement under the last system for which you were employed, which, presuming we're all here because we're PARA members today, is likely going to be PARA. So it's important that we coordinate with our sister retirement plan to get you information that you can use in your retirement planning. All right, so now you have your estimate of benefits in hand. What happens now? Well, some obvious answers, right? We want you to read that thing cover to cover. It is legitimately 6 pages long. Ooh, I'm going to back up 1 second. So at the bottom of the PARA request form, it specifically tells you that processing time is 30 to 45 business days. If you are on day 46 waiting for your response and you do not have reciprocity, there is a chance we sent it and it didn't reach you. Or maybe there's a problem getting clarifying information from your employer and we need your assistance reaching out to them. So if you're on day 46 and you haven't received a response, please reach out to PARA so that we can get you an update or get you connected with the retirement specialist that's assigned to your file. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right, so let's see. On to the now what. Read the estimate cover to cover. If you find an error in the body of the estimate, whether it's a typo or maybe it's missing service credit, missing salary information, please report those errors to PARA. It is imperative that we get that fixed before we get you retired. If PARA comes to you and asks you for a check stub from 10, even 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago, how many of us in this space are actually going to be able to produce that? My father-in-law legitimately is the only human being I've ever met who had check stubs back to 14 years of age when he delivered the paper in Vermont. It helped him when he went to Social Security because they were missing a ton of his records, but most of us can't do that, especially now that our employers give us our check stubs digitally. Nobody's downloading those. Very few people are scrutinizing them for errors. And so we need your help identifying those errors and getting them corrected long before retirement because they take time to resolve. Write down the list of questions that you have. You're not going to retire every single day. This is going to be something that is very foreign to your brain, and PARA knows that. We absolutely accept that our process is designed to be as straightforward as possible, but no one retires every day, and so we're here to help you with any questions that you have. PARA offers resources, and so on our seminars and events page, which is likely where you found the information you logged in with today, you are going to find serious offerings for our Zoom webinars as well as in-person seminars that are available to you. And so right now we're not traveling statewide. We did a little test pilot earlier this year, visited one area of New Mexico and came back to a notification we had been exposed. And so for the time being, we are sticking closer to home. And so we do offer webinars by Zoom and in person in the Santa Fe and Albuquerque office. So please visit our website for a list of available offerings. Hopefully we'll be able to get back out sooner than later. But in lieu of that, there is actually a video in our video series dedicated to understanding your estimate of benefits. And it legitimately goes section by section, line by line, and talks you through what each section of your estimate of benefit means. I know our estimates went through a little revamping recently, so the screenshots might not match spot on, but the ideas are still the same. There's a defined benefit plan. The data that we pull to calculate your estimate comes from the same places. So please feel free to use those resources. If all else fails, Para is here. You can reach us by phone, by email, in person at either of our offices, and I'll share those details in just a bit. Last but not least, we are doing Navigating the Retirement Racetrack Part 3 next, I want to say Tuesday. Let me just peek in my calendar. I lied, next Wednesday at noon. We have our friends joining us from Retiree Healthcare. Para will be covering the application for a pension process and answering any other questions you have. I would love to have our friend Rhonda Romero from Social Security join us, but an hour isn't even enough time to cover what we have to cover. So maybe that'll be a separate event. She is an excellent resource where Social Security is concerned, but we hope you join us. We know getting to retirement is an exciting time, and we want to make sure your path to the finish line is successful. And then, of course, our contact information, as we may have mentioned, Para has a social media following on various platforms. We encourage you to follow along. Our website is a wealth of resources. We have a website dedicated to our anniversary celebration. Both of Para's offices are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. No appointment necessary. If it suits you to come in person to ask your questions, you are definitely welcome to do so. But please note, staff cannot run an estimate of benefits on the spot, which is why we encourage you to submit a request form. Once you receive a response, you can bring that request form or stop by an office and say, hey, Para recently sent this to me. Can you pull it from my file? I have some questions. We would be happy to do that. There's actually a behind the scenes auditing process that is required, and estimates on the spot generally don't work out for anyone. So we are happy to address any questions or concerns you may have. My colleagues Jose and our Bureau Chief Cristina Perea address any inquiries to our Para Member Services email address. I, based out of Albuquerque, respond to the Para-Albuquerque email inquiries, and so we encourage you to reach out directly to the source for any questions you have. Let's see. Amigo, how did question and answer go?
Every time I answered a question, 2 or 3 more came up, so it might be faster just to go through them or open it up.
All right, so I will get to the hand raises in just a second. Somebody asked about uploading documents. If you upload them, do you have to also send them by email? And the answer is absolutely not. It actually duplicates the process, and if our staff forwards those to records, it's going to override your first request. So if you upload them, you are welcome to email us to see if we received them, if you didn't get that email kickback to you that it has been received. So do not do both. It actually erases your first submission, not erases, but overrides. Great question about pay period ends and how final average salary is calculated. I actually got that question via email this morning. And so somebody had a recent estimate of benefits, and their salary was pulling from April of 2022 back 36 months. And the member wanted to know why it wasn't captioning their recent raise from their employer. And the answer has to do with 3 pay period end months. For State of New Mexico employees, our last 3 pay period end month was in April of 2022. For the majority of us, our highest 36 consecutive months of salary will be from April of 2022 back 36 months. Now, that's not to say that's everyone's calculation. When September is fully posted, which is the next 3 pay period end month, most of us will see a shift in our final average salary, but since we're still September, we're not going to see that shift just yet. The state is doing an awesome job of posting, but they're still posting August wages, so you're not going to see that shift yet. Likely, if you haven't exhausted your 2 estimates in a calendar year, you likely will be eligible to request an updated estimate in late December, early January. That'll pick up more of your 2022 wages. All right, great question about reciprocity. How is your educational retirement board or act service credit factored into your calculation? For the purposes of reciprocity, non-overlapping, non-refunded service credit can be combined to meet retirement eligibility. So as a Tier 1 member of PARA, if I have 20 years of PARA, 5 years of ERB, I have 25 years of service credit and can retire. But everyone's scenario is different. I like to call you all my little snowflakes, not because I think you're flaky, but because you are all unique, which is why you need to submit a request to see where you stand between the two scenarios or the two systems. Good question. So, member had a question about beneficiaries. If your beneficiary's name has changed since the last time you submitted a beneficiary designation, our records division manager responded to my inquiry yesterday. She's saying your beneficiary needs to submit a change in para records form along with an updated copy of their social security card and driver's license to prove they've changed their name with all the required entities. If you need more information, please email us. We'd be happy to help. Can we repeat the Rio online account address? Yes, of course. I will flip back to that lovely tab. I passed it. Great question. I answered the reciprocity question. Great question. What can be deducted from my para pension benefits? We're actually going to cover that next week. But for the record, your pension is subject to federal tax regardless of where you live on Earth. State tax if you reside in New Mexico. If you move out of New Mexico, you need to direct PARA to stop withholding New Mexico state tax and then work with the tax and rev in your new state to have any deductions made on their behalf. Can you send more money to PARA, deposit more money in your PARA account? And so that answer, unfortunately, is no, but you can send any extra monies that you have, presuming they're coming out of your paycheck, to your PARA Smart Save Deferred Compensation account. So that's definitely an option. Can you buy co-op service credit? And that answer is yes, but that is a deep dive. Very few members qualify for it. Please email us at, let me get back down. Oh, darn it. Let me get back to the contact info page. I did that bad. Please email us at either PARA Member Services or PARA Albuquerque. We would be happy to get you the appropriate information for that. We covered Tier 1 in Video 1. It is also listed on PARA's website. Social Security expert. She is the expert who does outreach, and so she does not take direct calls. Her name is Rhonda Romero. She actually presented recently for San Juan County, and so my wish tree right now is that she comes and presents for us. And so Rhonda Romero is that resource. Okay. We will get you the direct link to our Facebook page here in just a second. How is New Mexico tax deferred? I'm not sure I understand that question. If you are asking about deferred contributions versus non-deferred contributions that you're making to PARA, your deferred contributions are paid out to you along with your interest at the time of retirement. Once that bucket is exhausted, we move on to the investment proceeds and employer contributions to pay you for the duration of your lifetime. If you are asking me how your PARA Smart Save account plays well with your PARA mandatory retirement, your deferred compensation account is accessible the moment you separate employment, and you can utilize that as you see fit. For those of you who are interested in receiving a copy of today's presentation in PDF format, I know this is going to blow up the chat. Sorry, Jose. If you have the chat feature available, you can drop us your email address in the chat. I tried to save everything to my OneDrive. It still would not let me drop it into the chat today, so I apologize for that. But if you want to drop your email either into the Q&A, if you're comfortable doing so, or into the chat, or just email us at PARA-Member Services or PARA-Albuquerque, we would be happy to get that back out to you. If you did not get your annual member statement, it can be downloaded from your self-service account, so that's one way to get it. You can call us or you can email us. We are going to ask you for your name and the last 4 digits of your social, presuming you don't know your para ID. Okay. So, purchasing service. Since this is applicable to the discussion we had today, the only type of service credit that cannot be purchased in less than 1 year increments is known as withdrawn service credit, where somebody worked for Para in the past, separated employment, took a refund of their contributions, and now they're back. Withdrawn service credit can only be purchased 1 year at a time or in multiple year increments or in total pre-retirement. The only way we let you buy less is if you need to buy less to satisfy service credit eligibility for retirement, and Para requires that you turn in your application for pension before we generate that purchase agreement. So the information you received is accurate. Excellent. Thank you all for dropping your email addresses in the chat. How is annual leave payout taxed? That is a great question for your payroll person. I will contribute to the rumor mill. As I understand it, if your employer pays out your leave balances, it can be taxed up to 44% if it's paid directly to you. If you roll it to your deferred compensation account, subject to IRS limits, and then take it directly from deferred comp, the tax rate is about 25% if you take it all out in one lump sum. Let's see. So your estimate of benefits does not include deductions for taxes or retiree health care. That is correct. Great question. And my apologies to those of you who have had your hands up. I meant to go there first. All right, Miss Annie, you are welcome to ask your question. I think you are officially unmuted now, or you will be when you answer my question about unmuting you. Annie, are you there? She might not be. Maureen, are you still on?
Unmute herself, Christina?
Hello?
I think Annie might have to unmute herself, or did you unmute her?
Well, I asked to unmute her, and if she didn't address my question, then I don't know. So we are going to let Maureen, if she unmutes herself, ask her question to the crowd. Maureen, if you're still on, you are welcome to ask your question.
Sorry, I raised my hand by mistake.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much for letting us know. All right. So I am going to go on a little field trip just really quickly. So this is Para's Facebook page for those of you who are hunting for it. Trying to think how best to find it other than typing its full name. Public Employees Retirement Association of New Mexico. It is a great way to stay in the know. It is certainly not the only way we communicate with our members, but we are very excited when we drop fun facts there for you all. So we encourage you to follow along. We have Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as well. The majority of them have the same handle. You will also find links to them at the top of Para's website, which is www.nmpara.org. Let's see, what did I do with the rest of my questions? We will get that email pulled and get that out to you just as soon as we wrap today's webinar. Let's see. Oh, I should probably stop recording. So we will end this with not officially the webinar, but officially the recording. Thanking you all for joining us today. We hope you learned something of value and look forward to seeing you all next week.